You are listening to the superfreakmedia podcast network. If you like this podcast, please be sure to show your support and follow us on our other social media platforms. Check out the links listed in the description of this episode to find out more. Thank you. Hello and welcome to the Super Freak Media podcast with me, your host, Jonno Butler. It is another episode of No Ghouls Allowed, and this month I've got with me Liam Banks.
Hey.
And Charlie Brentnall.
Hello there.
It was so tempting to say Charlie Clark, because that's what rolls off the tongue when I say Charlie.
Oh. Wow.
But then I realised we wouldn't have to bleep as much out with Chazza B in, so that's.
I was going to say there'd have been swearing already if Charlie Clark was on the podcast.
Just beep-tacular. So last weekend, we're recording this podcast on the 24th of October, and last weekend, the Super Freak Media team went to the Mayhem Film Festival in Nottingham at the Broadway Cinema. We try and go every single year. Last year, unfortunately, due to COVID, it was the skeleton edition, and we just couldn't get the time to go and attend that year. So we were really looking forward to this year, and as usual, it did not disappoint. Before I kind of start off and get into the films, I just want to make sure we kind of big up the people responsible. So all the staff at the Broadway Cinema, Melly, Steve, Chris, for organising the festival and programming everything. They come up with a great selection of films every year, be it shorts, features, a mix of world cinema, homegrown things. It genuinely, I think it's the best horror festival out there.
It's killer.
It's
amazing.
Great fun, and to go as a group and to discuss films afterwards and sort of chat about them, even if you don't like every single film, there's definitely something to talk about. And that's what we're going to be doing today. We're going to bring to the table our favourite film from the festival and our biggest disappointment. So that's not to say that it's the worst film that we saw or we hated it. It's just the film that we sort of thought, oh, that's a shame. So maybe there was a missed opportunity, or maybe it didn't quite live up to expectations. So that's what we're going to be doing today. But if you want to look back on our experience of Mayhem as it happened, you can go on to Super Freak Media's Instagram, and you will find all of the stories still there from the festival. Liam put all those together in his wonderful way. We've got reviews on there of the films. We've got some embarrassing pictures. And also, at some point, there may be a large clunking sound as Richard Parker joins the podcast, because he also came along, loved every film, obviously, 5 out of 5.
I mean, the thing is I was really looking forward to him coming on this episode because he would have actually seen the films we were going to be talking about. So the fact he's not here is just typical Richard.
It's classic, isn't it? Yeah, Richard's actually seen something and now he's not here. Legend.
If we were doing an episode about audio dramas, he'd have been there like a shark, but
he would.
Here we are.
But, these things happen. Bless him. So I'm going to give you guys a quick rundown of what actually was on at Mayhem, and I'm going to give you a few honourable mentions to start with. So the festival ran for 4 days, from Thursday the 14th of October right through till Sunday, with the Saturday and the Sunday being full days of film. You get there at 12 o'clock for the first film of the day and leave blurry-eyed and broken at about 11:30 in the evening, having just generally fermented in your seats.
Stinking of popcorn and links.
Apparently so, although none of us had popcorn or links.
No,
I think that was what worried me, was the fact that we were told that.
Absolute
very, very concerning.
Smell. So,
We're just absolute studs.
that's it. I mean, obviously, if you were going to choose 4 people in an auditorium who were just like alpha males,
Wow.
us,
Yeah.
just absolutely.
Speak for yourself.
Yeah. Just if anything, we're just too massive.
Yeah. Too swole.
Swole for days. So, first film of the festival was Alien on Stage, which, after my initial slight disappointment of the fact that it was not an actual version of Alien on stage performed at the festival, was incredible. A documentary about a group of Dorset-based bus drivers who decide that they've had enough of doing pantomimes and decide to recreate Alien on stage. And basically the idea is that nobody comes because quite frankly, if you are kind of what they described as was it a town in Dorset where everyone's either asleep or dead, why would they? But it's one of these heartwarming stories where it gets a bit of traction, people notice it, a fan club gets set up, and by one way or another it ends up having a documentary crew follow them as they take it to the West End stage.
It was incredible.
I don't know about you guys, but I think it was a perfect start to the festival.
I think Mayhem always knows how to kick things off and like set the tone, and I think we knew we were in good hands again this year when that film came on. And I think even just the audience reaction, there was a Q&A, wasn't there, with the show's director, one of the stars of the show afterwards,
and also
which
the director
was
of the actual film as well.
Yes, yeah. I mean, I think it was just, I don't know, it was such a unique project, and I think we were all laughing and enjoying it, probably for ways. I think they kind of admitted that it wasn't supposed to be funny initially, but because it was a group of bus drivers we created Alien, it was just, I don't know, it was just this weird thing to watch that just made everyone laugh.
Even from just an accent point of view, it's just some of the lines. Bloody hell!
But it was brilliant. I mean, I'm hoping that it. I think it's a project that has legs, and I think it's going to be going places. And I know they alluded that there might be like a feature film adaptation akin to like the Full Monty that might happen. And I think honestly that would be perfect because it was such a weird story, but a great one. It was it was heartwarming.
Yeah, it has that kind of classic British underdog sort of vibe to it, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
So that was film 1 on Thursday. Following that was a film that I know Liam was extremely excited about seeing, a French film called The Deep House, which was basically billed as an underwater haunted house movie. And I'm not going to dwell on it too much because I know Liam's going to chat about this one a little bit later on, which leads us into Friday, which featured another 4 films. The first one being The Queen of Spades from 1949, which unfortunately I can't, and I don't think the team can talk too much about because we didn't actually make it there for this one. Because it was on early in the day.
I think we all pretty much missed that one.
Yeah. But again, it just goes to show the kind of the range of films that get shown at Mayhem. You're not just going to go and watch something that came out last week or a film that is a huge budget modern picture. There will be classics there as well, which is always brilliant. After that was a British film called The Show, which again I didn't make because I was at work, which was very stressful, but I know that Liam and Charlie did see it. So what do you guys think of this one? Quickly, I think.
For me, it was a very mixed bag. I personally didn't enjoy it the most. I think visually it was quite interesting. I think it was it Alan Moore who was involved, obviously writing it and was also in it. I think he was a highlight playing the Moon. He was great. But I am not ashamed to admit I may have fallen asleep for a little bit of it because it was a slog. I think.
Right.
Yeah, I kind of agree with Liam. It was like a little bit of a slog at times, and you sort of didn't quite get a full grip on what was kind of going on. It was trying to throw a lot into one bag of visual aspects and storylines as well. But at the same time, it was very visually pleasing, I suppose. And just the entire aspect of it being set in this shithole of Northampton, apparently, as they say.
Sorry, Northampton.
Sorry, Northampton. Yes.
Yeah, not our.
That's from their words, not ours.
That's yeah.
The fact it had that British element to it, for me, and the comedy side of it, was what kept me interested throughout it.
Yeah, I think the visual elements, and I think that they tried to make like the kind of grim aspects of the UK, I suppose, almost fantastical. I think the fantasy side of it made it stand out, but it wasn't the best, unfortunately. And that was your first film as well, wasn't it, Charlie? Because you joined the festival on the Friday.
Yes.
So I think I felt particularly bad for you that was maybe your first experience, because I think, I don't know, had things kicked off for you the same way as it had for us with Alien on stage, you'd have just been like, right, okay. But I don't know. Yeah. It was a film.
It was film.
And following that, then onto the 8 p.m. screening on Friday was Night Drive, which stars AJ Bowen from House of the Devil.
And You're Next.
Yes, and You're Next
as
well. Yeah. I think this one disappointed me a little bit, I must admit, because the premise of kind of an Uber driver, for want of a better word, picking up a passenger who then accidentally hits a pedestrian, and then sort of things go awry from there, sounds like it's got the potential to really kind of delve into some dark themes and potentially go off in unexpected directions. And I think for me, it just didn't go far enough. I thought the two leads were very good together. I thought their chemistry was good. I just felt like I wanted more.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think the concept of it was great. I think the execution is what let it down, and that's not necessarily from a performance standpoint, because, like you said, I mean, a big fan of AJ Bowen anyway from his previous work, and I think that's maybe what. Well. Yeah, I think that's maybe what fed into my disappointment, was the fact that, I don't know, you could see them eating up the material, but it was just. I feel bad for saying it, but I just think it was kind of a bad film in many ways. I will say the thing that I enjoyed the most about it was the pleasantly kind of surprising moments of gore that just were really well done. So kudos to like the makeup effects team. Yeah, because they did make you cringe in the right way.
Yeah, there were some icky bits in there, kind of at unexpected places, wasn't there?
Yeah, absolutely. But other than that, I didn't enjoy it the most, unfortunately.
What about you, Charlie? Did you sort of on the same page?
See, at first, I was sat next to you, Liam, throughout most of the festival, and
my unfortunate for you.
Yeah, but my initial response, I turned to you at the end of it and says, "Oh, I quite enjoyed that." And then by the time I got down the stairs and outside, I went, "Hang on a minute, no." Now I've had time to sort of process it and think about the way the final third goes, and sort of there's an element of consequence taken out of it that then sort of almost undermined and made the first 2/3 underwhelming in a way.
Yeah.
Because you're led to believe that the passenger's obviously like this psychopath. But then without consequence, you know, it's a film about, if there are no consequences, what would you do?
Mm. And But the lead up to it is you kind of being on edge of, I don't know, you made to empathise with the lead character as to obviously how kind of crazy and out of your mind you'd go in that situation, because I don't know, it's like life ruining, isn't it, what happens? But then the conclusion is, oh, well, it doesn't matter anyway.
Yeah.
And I think that's the problem. Yeah, interesting.
Yeah.
But again, this is the thing. It's like, it's not as if we're going into these films and then coming out thoroughly disappointed, going, "Oh, that was terrible." We came out discussing them, and that's part of what a festival does. You come out having discussions and chatting about the film and thinking, well, actually, if it had done this, maybe that would have worked. But then again, it really worked for some people in the audience. You could definitely tell that. So
I think it was a highlight for a fair few people. So I mean, I think that's the great thing about Mayhem in particular and genre festivals, is it exposes you to stuff that you just wouldn't usually necessarily seek out or find.
Exactly.
Like, you know, if I'd have seen kind of that film on a streaming platform, I might have gone for something a bit more straight-laced horror, as opposed to more of like a thriller kind of with a sci-fi element to it. So it was nice to be exposed to it, but yeah, it starts conversations, and that's the main thing, I think.
Yeah. Moving on then, the final film of Friday was a South Korean film called Midnight. And I think this, for me, is where the festival really started to hit its stride, for want of a better word, because that is an extremely good pun, because the film was described beforehand in the introduction as the best film about running you'll ever see. And they're not wrong. It's about a serial killer who is interrupted kind of doing his business by a woman who just happens to be deaf. And this element of the fact that she can't hear is really used extremely well. Whether it's when she can't find people to help her, or whether she physically cannot hear when he's around. It's just fantastic. I think the pace was brilliant. I didn't think it let up. I think I described it as being just the right amount of ridiculous in places, because it did start to kind of push the boundaries of what would be believable. And you kind of your suspense of your willing suspense of disbelief, you've got to kind of go with it. Otherwise, you would start looking at it going, wait a second, could they not just... But no, just forget that. Just get along for the ride, and it's great fun.
I think two things for me that stood out were, I completely agree the fact that I didn't feel like it let up right from the opening. And that reminded me a lot of the Mad Max Fury Road film. I feel like that's a film that just builds and doesn't stop. And I don't know, I didn't expect that, and that was a really nice surprise. I absolutely love this film, by the way. And I don't know, I went into it kind of thinking, oh, well, we've seen deaf protagonists a few times now, particularly in horror, with the likes of Hush and A Quiet Place, obviously. But it did something completely different with it, which I wasn't expecting. And like you said, it was more about someone who's deaf being able to communicate with other people in a horrific situation, as opposed to, I don't know, the fact that they're deaf being a disadvantage against the killer, almost, if that makes sense. I thought it was really, really, really well done. That was a highlight for sure.
Yeah, and I think for me as well, I came away from it just appreciating We Had June's performance, the killer. Who had only been introduced to that week through Squid Games, because he's also in that.
Oh, there was a small cheer, wasn't there, in the audience when he appeared?
Yes, he showed up on screen, and like you could tell who's watched Squid Game in the audience just because he appeared. But I just found the fact, I mean, it can all be done cleverly because of editing, obviously, when you're making a film, but the different personalities and the amount of emotion he goes through as a psychopathic killer, where he's showing grief and anger and just deadpan psycho to glee and happiness. I just found his performance really solid.
Yeah, it was great. It really was.
Yeah, and for me, it kicked off the start of the festival being, for me, it was the Asian films in the festival that really stood out, and this was the first one, and that sort of, for me, they built from there.
Yeah, I completely agree.
So that rounded off Friday, and what a great way to do it. So leading on to Saturday, we got there for the first film of the day, which was the animation from the USA called The Spine of Night. And I must admit, I went into this one with sort of an idea of what it was going to be from the still that I'd seen. And unfortunately for me, it was exactly that. Like, I really didn't like this one. I know a lot of people in the audience did.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It just wasn't for me. I think the voice cast in it, reading the names were fantastic, but I didn't think they were given. I think the dialogue they were given was a little bit wordy and don't want to say pretentious, but a bit pretentious, and it really wasn't for me. And the animation style, again, it didn't bring it back. Sometimes when you think, oh well, actually it was really pretty to look at, that's
you can be a bit more forgiving, can't you?
But I just, unfortunately for me, it wasn't my bag at all. But as I say, that's not to say it's a bad film. It's just that I didn't like it.
I think I really appreciated that it was described in the introduction as this as well. It clearly was a labour of love. I mean, there was obviously, I think the film was an attempt to kind of establish this mythos and this whole kind of like land and like the creatures and the magic and the science behind it all and all of this. And I will say there were some characters that I really dug, like character design, particularly like the flying kind of heroes in the film I thought were great. And I don't know, there was ideas that I liked, but I just think it was very muddled. It kind of was told almost like an anthology of sorts, but then I don't know, it wasn't coherent enough, I didn't think, to be an anthology. And I don't know, it kind of got a bit monotonous, like when you were flashing back to these two characters, which was obviously the wraparound story, having this conversation, then you knew you were going to get another flashback to like another story in this land. It was...
Especially when you consider that later on in the festival there was an anthology film with a wraparound segment that really worked.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It was just, I don't know, it was a letdown. And I mean, some of our team, obviously Kieran was with us as well. He came at it, I think, more from an artistic and animation like background and side. So he very much had an opinion on it from that, which I do appreciate, because I just looked at it and was like, oh yeah, the drawings were okay, but I get what he was saying. Unfortunately,
I think there was, because of the anthology aspect, and you were saying about this kind of, it was almost as if they were trying to build a world that could be set in like a Dungeons and Dragons campaign somewhere. So they were introducing you to a few characters and the general idea that this one character had this very specific goal, but then I didn't quite understand what everybody else's goals were. And the characters it did introduce you to, there was the trainee scholar in the early part, who we thought, I think me and you, Liam, thought, well, this is the character we're behind, this is our main protagonist. And then they disappeared. And then I sort of at that point started caring very little for characters, because I kind of thought, right, well, they're either going to get killed off or dropped from the story with no real input to the output, I suppose.
I think I appreciated the ambitiousness of this film, but at the same time I think it was its undoing. I think it had too many ideas. It was trying to do too many things too quickly, and I think that's ultimately what made us, things like characterization and us caring about the characters, that sort of thing, was sacrificed over kind of as giving us these spectacles and these battles and stuff, which also weren't too well done.
I feel that the fight scenes were quite slow. Do you know, like, as a character was running up to somebody with a weapon drawn, it was almost like they were like slogging up to them like a turtle or a tortoise and just like half swinging a sword really slowly. and it felt like it was purely there to get the effect and the animation of blood and gore.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and we were promised, weren't we, in the introduction, that this was going to be incredibly psychedelic. It was incredibly gory, out there, crazy. And I mean, when the gore did get going, I can remember there were a couple of moments when me and you, Charlie, like literally were like, oh God, like when people were being like split into two and spines were being ripped out. And I mean, that's the sort of thing, I guess, that, I don't know, some people will enjoy. And as an audience, I think you could hear the reactions, which were good. But I don't know. I just think it was a bit of a letdown, absolutely, as a whole, I think.
Yeah, and I definitely think if Kieran were here, he would have chosen that one as his biggest disappointment, I'm afraid. It was a strong reaction from Kieran.
Yeah,
Hella strong.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Bless him.
Richard gave it 5 out of 5, though, so loved it.
Yeah, well, just Richard being the antidote to our negativity.
That's it. Moving on, we had Knocking, a kind of psychological horror film, I guess, from Sweden, which I thought really was kind of the first time at the festival that I really got into one of the horror films, if that makes sense. Because up until this point, obviously loved Alien on stage. Midnight was more of a thriller, and Knocking, I really enjoyed. I thought it was. It's odd because not an awful lot happens.
No,
but that slow pace and the performance at the centre of it, holding everything together, I thought was terrific. I thought it was creepy. It was tense, and you never quite knew what was happening. I do think, personally, again, I might have liked a little bit more to happen, but maybe that's not the point. Maybe the point was that it was kind of this self-contained story, and it did everything that it needed to do. But yeah, I really enjoyed this one.
I think I agree with the fact that I think the central performance is what anchored that film and made it as successful as it was. I think quite easily, if that character had been in the wrong hands, it wouldn't have been as enjoyable. I do agree. I think more should have happened because I know that I think the point of it was that it was supposed to follow almost this mundane kind of life that this character led, but. And I think that was there to kind of ground some more horrific elements that were then going to be introduced. But I would have appreciated them to have pushed it a lot further. There's a lot of like thrillers out there, like Rear Window, that sort of thing, where you have this kind of character that's trapped in this claustrophobic space, and there is this horror that's happening, and they're trying to convince other people that something's going on. And I thought the film was clever in its ambiguity. I mean, even the ending, I think, is open to interpretation, whether or not, obviously, our protagonist is a reliable one. But I think I obviously attend this festival primarily, I think, more for the horror side of things, because that's what I know and what I love. And I think this year they definitely lent more into the fantasy thriller, sci-fi kind of genre elements a lot more. And this was like our first stab, I think, at horror, but it was very subtle horror is how I describe it.
Yeah, don't go into this one expecting jump scares and to be kind of scared out of your wits.
So it does leave a lot to the imagination, doesn't it? And this kind of question looming over it, like you say, Liam, about whether this protagonist is a reliable one. There are times when you think, okay, something is definitely going on here, and then maybe halfway through you suddenly question whether she's correct and whether she is in fact not actually hearing what she thinks she's hearing. But then you go back on yourself again. Like I went back and forth multiple times during this film of believing her and not believing her,
which I guess is a sign that it's done its job. That's what it's wanting the audience to do throughout. So from that
I will say
perspective-
as well, just to add, sorry, I did find it visually quite stunning, this film. I did think the cinematography was great. There was some really lovely camera moves and
the Snorri
like
cam
attention
sequence.
to yeah, it was a lovely film to watch.
Especially
it was very
considering that
easy
a
on
lot
the
of
eye.
it took place in that apartment room.
Yeah. And I believe it was a feature film debut as well, wasn't it, for the director?
Fantastic.
I think it was her first feature.
She's definitely put her stamp on that then.
Yeah, absolutely.
Then, as usual, Mayhem does not just focus on feature films. It actually started out as a short film festival, and they kind of keep that element to it by having a short film showcase every Saturday. And that was the next thing that we watched. As usual, it was a mix of kind of horror and genre cinema from the UK, the USA, and further afield. And it's usually quite a mix. There'll be ones in there that are just downright horrific, ones in there that are short and snappy, slightly longer ones, and ones that are just downright hilarious. And for me, my favourite was a film called Waffle, which I really enjoyed. I thought if you want to go in and kind of watch a short film that is beautifully produced, very well made, well acted, and is the right amount of kind of sweetly sickly funny, but then also extremely dark, then this is the one for you. I don't want to give really anything away other than if you can sort of seek out Waffle, I would definitely do it, not to be confused with other types of waffle that people may search for on the internet.
Oh no! You did not just say that.
No.
Oh dear Lord! No, I think Waffle was the last one, wasn't it, in the showcase?
Yeah.
And I mean, the shorts are a particular highlight of mine. I mean, we've been lucky enough to have a couple shown there, and I will say it is such a relief when you go and you don't have anything showing, because you can literally just sit back and relax and not worry about things. But yeah, I love Waffle. I think my favourite, again, just me being me, was probably one of the more horrific ones. I liked The Thing That Ate the Birds.
Yes,
I thought was.
Oh yeah, no, that was good.
I thought that was really, really creepy. And I don't know. I dig a short film that has a weird creature in it, and I don't know. I think it ended in a nice way.
Gave me the vibe that it was potentially, in a way, a bit of a pitch.
Yeah, it seemed like more of a proof of concept, didn't it? Like for a much bigger idea, which I would be very excited to see developed, because I think the only things that maybe stood out as being a negative in that film were maybe the creature like effects or design, and I think with some polishing and a bit more budget, I think they'd be onto a winner absolutely with that. I think there is another one as well, Charlie. I'm sure that you really liked the Canadian one. They're Here.
Yes,
I think you enjoyed that, didn't you? Yeah.
It was filmed in such a way that it could be quite a big budget film. It could be a feature. The concept of it, of this young girl believing in aliens and believing that one has corrupted her grandmother's mind and taken over her body, is something that has longevity for a feature film, I think. So again, it's one of those things of similar to Knocking, where the protagonist isn't believed by those around them. But this one is very much, well, we believe her. So it's more heartbreaking as well, because as an audience, we do believe her. We've seen it happen.
Yeah.
But the characters around them don't. So, but it was shot beautifully, I think. I know in the last part, CGI for the creature and the alien is
I think it would have benefited maybe from a bit more of a budget again, wouldn't it? And that sort of thing. But again, I think that's kind of what makes these sorts of short films so charming. It definitely felt like it was paying homage to like Amblin films, like early Spielberg and that kind of nuclear, almost non-nuclear family, having to fight these forces that they don't quite understand. So I enjoyed that. I thought that was a great one.
Moving on then, the two films that closed the night on Friday, we are going to talk about a little bit later on, but they were the Korean thriller Spirit Walker and the classic Phantom of the Paradise. Sunday started with another film, which I think we're going to talk about a little bit later on in more detail, called Get the Hell Out, Taiwanese zombie film, swiftly followed by an American film called Hellbender, which we are also going to chat about a little bit later on.
We're going to talk about everything later on.
Yeah. Hilariously, the next film and the film after that are also going to be talked about a little bit later on. The Night Shift, a Korean anthology film, and also Lamb, another Swedish horror, which moves us on to the final film of the festival, Beyond the Infinite 2 Minutes, Japanese film which comes with a massive endorsement from the director of One Cut of the Dead, which kind of gives you an idea about the kind of the vibe of this film. And if you can kind of look past the fact that it's got quite a pretentious title, it was absolutely terrific. My one kind of thing to say is, just whatever you do not search for the trailer on YouTube, because the trailer does not do it any sort of justice whatsoever. It makes it look, quite frankly, awful.
That's a shame.
It is a shame, because the film is terrific. It's shot to make it look like one continuous cut, and also the kind of the premise that there is a monitor in this guy's bedroom that is linked with like a 2-minute time delay to the TV screen in the cafe below, and that therefore he can effectively time travel is fantastic. And the way that more characters get introduced and things start to heighten, and they realize that by hook or by crook they can sort of extend this 2 minutes, and everything just gets more and more elaborate, and it has that charming One Cut of the Dead style kind of vibe to it, where it looked like everyone was having a lot of fun. And it's 70 minutes long, and it just does not let up for the entire film. It just ramps up and up and up and up, with things getting more and more ridiculous as the characters are in more and more slight versions of themselves of 2 minutes past and 2 minutes in the future. And you're kind of looking at it going, how the heck are they remembering all of this? How are they timing everything so that everything's right? And it is wonderful.
I think on the face of it, and like you've probably said, with the trailer, you could look at it and very easily think, God, this looks bad. And I think it really helped us going in pretty much blind, and not really knowing what to expect, because you're greeted with this concept pretty much immediately. And it's an example of where a film has an absolutely killer concept and does absolutely everything it can with it, but in the right way.
Yeah.
And I think the performances were great. It was absolutely hilarious to watch. And I don't know, I was thoroughly entertained. It's the same way that I think this festival had a killer opening. It had a killer close. And I think we all left with smiles on our faces after we'd watched this film.
100%.
And we'd had a really good time. And I think that's one of the unique things about this festival. You'll watch a film where you get absolutely shit scared an hour before, and then the next film you put on, you're just literally laughing the whole way through. But yeah, I think again another highlight of mine was this film. I really liked it.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's my close second from the whole festival, and it was just a great way to round off the weekend. Yeah,
it's always great to finish on a high, isn't it? Like that, and
yeah,
definitely didn't disappoint. And the fact that it only lasted 70 minutes meant that we managed to get home in a reasonable hour. So
it didn't
thank you,
outstay its
Mayhem.
welcome, and I got my last bus. So thanks,
Yeah.
Mayhem. Always being considerate, absolutely. But also, what an absolute feat of filmmaking that film
my
is.
gosh!
Like, if you watch this film, stay for the credits, guys, because you get to see obviously how they kind of did it. But oh my god, I said to you, didn't I, afterwards, Charlie? I was like, can you imagine writing the script for this thing? It would be. I mean, I think it's as much mathematical as it is like a story, if that makes sense.
I didn't see. You said something to me about you saw a clip of the script and how they'd made notes on it where they've circled one of the events that happens and then draw an arrow to 5 pages later where it reoccurs because of this monitor being set up. But
It's
it
insane.
just must be so difficult to keep track of everything that's going on at all times.
Oh, absolutely mind-boggling. I think for sure. So that kind of brings us to an end of Mayhem for 2021. We are going to be discussing our favourite films from the festival, and also, as I say, our biggest disappointment. So definitely not the worst films at the festival, but the ones that, for whatever reason, made us a little bit sad. It's gone really quiet for a second. No, I don't know, like it was crackling. Kind of weird. Like, I don't know if it's doing it now or not.
No, I think we're good this end. I think it might just be your end.
Hear anything.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I think sometimes when I kind of turn it off and on, it just kind of goes weird. Like I can hear like an odd echo sometimes. You're not getting an echo.
No.
Not like somebody like angrily reciting the alphabet or anything.
Oh.
Because do you know who's in the what could possibly be the corner of my headset?
At the corner of your headset.
That's right. He's here.
Oh,
It's tiny Nicolas Cage.
we got debated into that. Oh my.
Well, you say we, Charlie.
All right then. I'm not here
You
often
did.
enough. You're here every time. I'm not.
Got him.
Oh.
Got him. I thought this month, as our wonderful Cage Corner. See how I paused there for the Cage Corner riff to go in.
Yeah. I wonder what was happening there.
Yeah, don't you worry.
Like, what is he
Don't
doing
you
it
worry.
again?
Yeah, there's scratching in the edge of the room. I'm gonna whip out a Nicolas Cage quiz. I want to see.
Oh God.
Which one of you guys is the most cagiest? Who knows the most about our Lord and Saviour?
Do you have a minute to talk about our Lord and Saviour Nicolas Cage?
Yes, I do. So it's a 10-question quiz. I'm going to absolutely blast through it. And you can play along at home if you like. So
I think I'm going to do really badly at this. I'm just going to.
quite a few of them are multiple choice.
Oh, okay.
So,
okay.
And they're ones that you can guess at.
Okay.
Just so you're aware, the first one is not multiple choice.
You lied, goddammit.
So, first question in our Nicolas Cage quiz. The tagline, ice cold, hot, wired, comes from which film? When you know, because I can see both of you, just pop your hands up. And Liam, you're going to go straight in. So you think you know the answer, Liam? So Charlie, I'm going to give you a chance to guess beforehand.
The line again?
Ice cold, hot, wired.
Okay, I've got a guess, but
Okay.
it's probably wrong.
I'm working on integrity here, so if Charlie gets it right, Liam, and it wasn't what you said, you've got to go with your original. Okay.
Okay.
Charlie, hit me.
Is it Ghost Rider?
Liam, do you agree?
No.
Hit me, Liam.
Gone in 60 seconds?
It was, in fact, Gone in 60 seconds. Charlie, I like your thinking though. So I like the fact that you went down the automobile route. It shows that you've got some Cage knowledge there. So I'm okay with that.
I must have been about 10 since I last watched Gone in 60 Seconds.
Do you know what? Plot twist. Never watched it.
Whoa!
Oh,
Sorry.
shut up, you.
It's a classic.
Mike, shut up.
Let's ride. So good. Multiple choice question for you.
Okay.
Nicolas Cage's father had which occupation? Was he an actor, a literature professor, a chef, or a high school teacher? Hands up when you've got an answer, and I will go to the other person to guess. Literature professor, actor, high school teacher, chef. Oh, I was in unison. So, Liam, give me your answer first.
It's a toss-up. I'm going to go with, was it high school teacher?
High school teacher from Liam. Charlie?
I was going to go literary professor.
Oh, and you would be correct, making it 1-1. He was, in fact, a literature professor. Unlucky
God
Liam.
damn it. It was literally between those two.
Question number 3. Which is the first movie that Nicolas Cage appeared in? Was it Peggy Sue Got Married, Rumblefish, Fast Times at Ridgemont High, or Face Off? Liam's straight in, which means we're going to go to Charlie for a guess.
Face Off.
He's going for Face Off. Is that because that's the one you've heard of?
Yeah.
Like it. Like your style. Liam?
Peggy Sue.
No points for either of you, I'm afraid.
God damn.
The answer was Fast Times at Ridgemont High, which means 0 points. It's still 1-1 in the Nicolas Cage quiz. Crazy.
It's nail biting up in
Crazy.
here.
You should both get this one right, I reckon. So it should be hands up straight away. Which is Nicolas Cage's real name? Is it Nicholas Vivarium? Is it Nicholas Presley? Nicholas Coppola? Or Nicholas Mann?
I love how neither of us have answered.
This is so worrying.
Okay.
Liam's got his hand up.
It's going to be wrong.
Charlie, hit me.
Presley.
Oh, okay. He did marry a Presley.
Damn it.
So, incorrect.
Okay, so I know it's not Presley then. That's great.
Liam?
Coppola?
Yeah, correctamundo. He is, I think, the nephew of Francis Ford Coppola. So
I feel like I've read that somewhere.
I think you'll
that
find
it was still very much a stab in the dark.
I think you'll find it was on an early Cage Corner, Liam. So
You think I listened to this podcast?
Okay, question number 5, 2-1 to Liam. Nicolas Cage is credited as being the director of this movie. Is it Sonny, Birdie, Manny, or Laddie? Boom, same time. Liam, give me your answer first.
Sonny?
Liam's gone for Sonny. Charlie?
Gonna say Sonny, but I'll go with Manny.
You've changed your mind. It was
Have I
the
got it
incorrect decision. It was, in fact, Sonny. You can go for the same one. I don't mind. I really don't mind.
Okay.
Question number 6. Nicolas Cage has been married how many times?
That we know of.
That we know of. Yes.
Do we just have to guess?
Guess a number. Liam's in. Charlie's in. Locked in. Okay, Charlie, give me your answer.
4.
4 times for Charlie. Liam?
I was also going to say that. So yeah, I'll go the same. 4.
Shouldn't have done it, Liam. It was 5.
Oh,
Unlucky.
God damn it.
Because his most recent marriage of 4 days does count.
Wow.
Next question. He has 2 sons. For a point each, name them. I ain't giving you any multiple choice here. Liam's got a hand up there, which means he's probably got at least one of the sons.
No.
Really disappointing. It's sad that I know these, isn't it?
I don't know. It's you, Jonno.
I do believe one of them is a comic book artist and the other one is an actor. Not that helps you at all.
No.
Okay. Charlie, are you going to guess some names for me?
I should guess. Do you want both of them?
Yeah, hit me with 2 and then I can give you...
I will go with Luke Cage.
I like it. Good, strong vibes.
And Nick.
And, okay, I like it. Liam?
I was thinking he might have also... He seems like the sort of person who'd have a Nicolas Cage Jr. or Nick Cage Jr. But I don't know. I have no idea. So I was literally going to say Legolas and Ricolas Cage.
Legolas and Ricolas Cage. See, the thing is, neither of you are massively kind of far away with the vibe that you went down. So Nicolas Cage is a massive fan of comic books and fantasy. So Legolas, Luke Cage wouldn't have been horrendous answers. However, his sons are Kal-El from Superman, and also Weston. So Kal-El Cage and
like
Weston Cage. Yeah, like a Weston.
Like a Weston.
So
Weston Cage, for
Weston
goodness
Cage.
sake.
Spelled
Kal-El Cage.
Yeah, I think it's but Weston.
Or is it just Kal-El?
Weston.
Oh,
West.
Okay. So
Yeah,
Weston.
Just so you're
Okay.
aware, it is 3-1 to Liam with 2 questions remaining. So
Oh,
Charlie,
dear.
you're going to have to absolutely smash these.
Oh dear.
He has the tattoo of a cartoon character. This cartoon character is a bird. What is it? Liam's locked in. Charlie's looking.
This doesn't
thoroughly
bode well, does it?
confused.
If Liam knows it. No.
I don't think I know, but I
think-
have an idea.
Liam knows the cartoon character bird, so that's why Liam's locked in. Okay, we're going to have to hurry, Charlie.
I'm going to say Big Bird from Sesame Street.
It's got Big Bird. Controversially,
Wow.
wouldn't say cartoon character.
You've picked like the only bird character that is like not a cartoon. For goodness sake, Charlie, one job.
I will, for that, Charlie, I will let Liam answer and then I'll let you reconsider.
Oh, okay.
Okay, Liam. Who are you going
Is
with?
it Roadrunner?
Ooh, Roadrunner. Liam's gone for Roadrunner. Charlie.
It's not going to be.
I haven't got the foggiest. I don't know.
Ooh,
No.
he's timed out. It's
Yeah.
Woody Woodpecker.
Oh, for goodness sake, I was going to say Woody Woodpecker. And I literally, you know, when I put my hand up, Woody Woodpecker was in my mind, and then I was like, no. Oh,
Excellent.
you nearly had to bleep then,
I nearly
Jonno,
had to
so
bleep it. Thank
consider
you. Thank
you're
you very much.
welcome.
At least you didn't say Big Bird. Just saying.
Right. You know when you put on
Jesus.
spot, right? Your mind goes weird places.
Just go straight to
Okay.
Big Bird.
Yours does.
Big Bird.
So, making the last question absolutely pointless. But we will see if Charlie can crawl one back. Who directed the greatest movie ever made, Face Off? Was it Corey Ewan, John Woo, Stephen Chow, or John Landis? Liam's got his hand up. Charlie looks defeated, broken,
Defeated man.
which tells me that I think Liam has got this one correct, and Charlie's sort of just doing a weird twitchy thing with his finger. Charlie, who are you going for? Corey
Stephen
Ewan,
Chow.
John
you said?
Woo, Stephen Chow, or John Landis?
I'll go with Stephen Chow.
Let's go with Stephen Chow. Liam,
John Woo.
the master of the doves himself, John Woo. Off they go, in slow motion, into the distance, which means Liam wins our Nicolas Cage quiz 4-1. Well played, Charlie. I mean, it was always going to be tough. It was always going to be tough.
I'm just not as cultured in Nick Cage
I think that's
as
it.
you are.
I think that's it.
I think I'm only a fractionally more cultured than you just because of how much I'm exposed to it through Jonno.
Yes,
I think
that's
it.
where it comes from.
So I don't know if it's a positive thing.
I was going to say, if anything, this is probably a massive indictment. If,
The cage is rubbing off.
That's it. That's it.
Oh dear.
So I hope you enjoyed that at home, and if you played along, please let us know if you got a higher score than our very own Liam Banks. And if you have, congratulations. You have my utmost respect. Legend. So moving on then, I thought we would delve into some of the films that stood out to us in Mayhem. So Liam, I'm going to start with you. Favourite film of the festival?
So my favourite of the festival was the closing film of Saturday night. Yeah, it was. It was Saturday
it's the
night.
one that Matt came along for and thoroughly enjoyed.
It was I mean, in the festival, this slot is usually devoted to like a cult favourite or like an older film. I know previously we've seen the likes of Suspiria in this place. So this year did not disappoint, and I think I'm right in saying none of us had seen this film before we went in.
No.
And it was the 1974 film Phantom of the Paradise, directed by none other than Brian De Palma.
Yes.
So when you think of Brian De Palma, I don't think you would think of this film.
This is Brian De Palma of Scarface fame.
Scarface, Carrie, like just not. You wouldn't think that one of his films would be a rock opera, which I think is the only way to describe this film. Oh my God, I was thoroughly blown away by it. I think starting it, I mean, I'm not a big fan of musicals, but I will say I have a soft spot for the likes of Rocky Horror, and I think this film and Rocky Horror you could absolutely do in a double feature. Yeah. It was just, it was incredible. It stars Paul Williams as a music executive called Swan, who also made the music and produced the music for the film, which
Oscar
on its
nominated,
own,
by the way. The music.
It's fantastic. It deserved an Oscar. I know I'm taking it you saying nominated means it didn't win.
Don't think it did.
Which is an absolute shame. I mean, standout would be, I mean, I thought our protagonist, William Finley playing Winslow was great. Jessica Harper, she was brilliant. Didn't know that she could sing either, which was a nice surprise. But the standout was absolutely Garrett Graham playing Beef. Like, I'm usually not that partial to Beef, but after that film, I wanted nothing but beef. So take that as you will.
I think
I just loved it. Loved him so much.
Controversially for me, I'm gonna say I think I actually preferred this to Rocky Horror. I
can understand that. I think moments of it were I don't know. I think it was excessive in all the right ways, if that makes sense. Like, it was just fabulous. And when the obviously the whole kind of concept and story behind this is that Swan, the music producer, is stealing Winslow's work to basically launch his own show, which is going to be the Paradise, and he's launching this show, and obviously there's kind of like this reference to the Phantom of the Opera story, this hideously disfigured man, which happens also in the quirkiest of ways. I mean, getting your face pressed in a vinyl press is just absolutely batshit crazy. It's mental. But I don't know. I wanted to watch it, like, as soon as I'd finished watching it, I wanted to watch it again. And I think I might only refer to you as you big Goliath going forward, Jonno, just because I absolutely just love that. Having a rock star then just be the campest thing on earth was just a genius move, I think.
I thought it was wonderfully camp. I loved it.
Yeah.
Stand out for me.
I went into it not really knowing what to expect because, admittedly, not seen Phantom of the Opera, so or Rocky Horror Show, so I sort of didn't know what to expect, and I didn't think it would be my cup of tea. But about 15-20 minutes in, I was like, "Yeah, I'm on board with this. This is cool."
I think I probably laughed the most at this film out of any of the films, and I mean that's saying something because Alien on Stage was epic, but I don't know, it just ruined me in all the right ways.
Amazing. That's something to put on a poster, isn't that? Ruined me
Absolutely
in all the
in
right
all
ways.
the right ways. Yeah. But yeah, fantastic.
I think that's nice because you said that this was one that you were looking forward to, and it delivered.
Yeah.
Which I guess in a rather horrible way kind of brings us on to the next film, which was a film that you were really looking forward to.
Yes.
And then didn't kind of deliver as much as you wanted it to, and that was The Deep House.
Yeah. So I think obviously we mentioned this when we ran through the kind of the timetable of the festival, schedule of the festival. This was the closing film of the first night, and I don't know, when you hear it's one of those films that has just like a great idea behind it. When you hear underwater haunted house, you just think, oh my God, this is going to be incredible. And I don't know, part of me was just like, how can you mess this up? But they found a way. And I mean, I'll start with the negatives and I'll end with the positives, just because I don't want this to be like me just shitting all over this film, because I respect anyone who makes a film. But this was directed by the filmmakers who were behind Inside, which is a 2007 French film, which I don't know if either of you've seen, but it's probably one of the most intense and horrific films you could see. Think of like probably one of the worst things that could happen. It's kind of this film. But this one, despite the concept, despite I don't know, the filmmakers behind it, I think my main problem was the characters. I just despised them and really didn't like them at all. You kind of the idea is that you have these like adrenaline junkies / YouTubers / influencers who are looking for like the next big experience that they can film and get thousands of views online, which they just constantly keep saying.
This one's going to go viral.
Yeah, I mean, if I don't know, part of me didn't know whether or not it was deliberately like you were supposed to just hate them.
Well, I don't know. For me,
I don't know.
Partly, but people are so kind of YouTube and tech savvy now that they came across as really kind of unrealistic in the depiction of what a YouTuber would do, especially someone who hasn't got that many subscribers and is trying to get a big break. He's got a flipping underwater drone camera.
Yeah, I mean, it takes leaps, doesn't it, with the logic? I mean, the thing is the things could have been a whole lot cleverer, I think, in their approach with it, because there are loads of stories of YouTubers, influencers that like do controversial things for views and that sort of thing, and like that I feel was like a thing that wasn't tapped into. It was more just an excuse for this found footage film to just keep recording and keep rolling, when obviously they were in a very stupid and precarious situation. Now, for me personally, the two of the biggest things that I fear, I'm very extremely claustrophobic, and one of my biggest fears is drowning. So to have this haunted house underwater, where it was like immediately I was kind of on edge at the idea of it. But then I don't know, I didn't find it particularly scary. There were a few moments that I really liked, but then things were kind of explained away, like, oh, yep, it's probably satanic, or there's just a weird ritual going on in the basement. I don't know. It's very odd. Mick Jagger's son is the lead, like, male protagonist, James Jagger. And I don't know. I don't really think he can act. I think he maybe got the role because he's Mick Jagger's son. It was just an absolute letdown. But like I said, I want to end with the positives. I think the production design was incredible.
Oh, it was
this house.
Lovely set.
It was insane how good it was. Like, it was just gorgeous to look at, and them swimming through these spaces. They did that really, really successfully, but I think that wasn't enough to save this film, and that's why it was my biggest disappointment, unfortunately.
Yeah, I think for me personally, it looked gorgeous. The sets, as you say, were incredible. The production design was spot on. I just think it was unfortunate when things could have got particularly grisly, that it relied on bubbles going everywhere and you didn't really see what was happening. And then also, I wanted, what we were promised was a haunted house film underwater, and what we got, unfortunately, was like a haunted house film underwater. There was nothing else. You know, I didn't feel like they utilized the fact that it was underwater enough, unfortunately, for me.
Yeah, in some ways, it's like they kind of tried to make it, I don't know, conventional, if that makes sense.
It was too conventional. It was underwater and that was it.
The scares were like these ghostly people walking about underwater, which, is odd to look at, but oh my God, you're underwater, like have bodies floating about. And I don't know, just there's, it was, it made me mad.
Do you have anything to add on that one, Charlie, or do you want to bring the tone up a little bit and lighten it with your favourite?
I wasn't there for this film, but it was one that I was looking forward to seeing. So when I then heard Friday morning that you were all quite disappointed with it, I was like, okay, the only good thing I missed about Friday then was Alien on stage from the two.
So if anything, this was a major success for yourself.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
So, favourite film of the festival, Charlie? Because I know you've got about another 12 minutes with us and then you've got to dash off. So
I do indeed. So I'll try and keep it short and maybe let you guys do a lot more of the talking on them, because I know that you guys also liked Get the Hell Out, a Taiwanese zombie comedy film that is set around Parliament being infected with a virus, which I think going into it kind of thought, okay, well, we're kind of still in a pandemic and COVID and all that. How are they going to pull this off and keep it interesting? And it actually had nothing to do with that side of things, which is where I thought it was going to go. But it's the rabies virus, and it just it's just brilliant. It just gets out of hand so quickly. We're thrown into the start of the story, and then we're thrown into it where we're already joining the chaotic action of Parliament, and like they're all eating each other. And then it skips back to before the events of this outbreak, and you get the build up, and it's just done brilliantly. It's comical. It's got a love story intertwined with it as well, that it pieces it all together, that all these characters find themselves in this situation where they're working as a team against the powers of Parliament, which they all kind of despise. And it makes the main character question why she wanted to get into Parliament in the first place as well, which is, I guess, something that's quite current across the globe, really.
I just like
in the current situation.
I just really love the fact that there's actually very little difference between when the MPs and the members of Parliament are bitten and when they are just normally debating things. The amount of shouting and water throwing and just general aggro that's going on, you kind of almost think they're rabid already. I thought it was terrific. I thought it was funny. Obviously, some of the jokes wouldn't land with a Western audience. There's obviously a kind of a layer there that we're not going to get. But the visual humor, a lot of the references to current memes and trends and people getting shot and then suddenly just dancing when they die.
The caricature and comics book style, every time you was introduced to a character and it sort of gave you that manga art style over the top of it. It just had this pow, whack kind of vibe to it.
Yeah. Loved it.
It was ferocious, it was kinetic, and it was just absolutely hilarious in places. I think that was it was an ace way to kick off that day, wasn't it? It was it was brilliant.
12 o'clock after you'd been there late the night before, driven in, that was a wake-up call. That was the perfect way to start the day. Yeah,
absolutely.
That definitely not a film to close the festival, that one. That you'd go home, you'd crash on the way home. You'd just drive into everything, I think. Yeah. Perfect. So I'm going to bring it down a notch again, Charlie. You're going to have to tell us the film that sort of disappointed you.
So Sunday obviously starts off really well with Get the Hell Out, and it very quickly became the highs and lows for me of the whole festival, because we go from Get the Hell Out, and it might have played a part in how I then felt about the next film, because I'd just come from the high of that film.
Yeah.
But Hellbender, for me, was vastly disappointing. I went into it with the expectation it was going to feel quite Blair Witch-ish. We was going to see a lot of gory, horrific witchcraft going on. And it very much felt a lot of tell and don't show throughout the entire film. And the stuff it was showing you was stuff you'd already been told. So it was a slog. But then it also had this other side to it, where it had this death metal family band playing, which seemed to have no real effect on the story for me, apart from showing the relationship between mother and daughter, and then justifying her name as Hellbender. It didn't do much else for me, to be honest.
Yeah, I think it was in essence, it's a coming of age story, and it's about a relationship between a mother and a daughter who happen to be witches, and I just there was too much kind of chat, and I think the relationship between the mother and daughter was odd, weirdly.
Yeah, extremely odd. And
it didn't gel with me, I'm afraid. I know the people behind us came out going, well, that was terrific. I thought, so I don't know if that was the vibe that you were kind of going for, then you're probably going to come out of this film thinking very differently to we did. But I think a little bit like some of the other films we talked about, I felt like it could have done more. I felt like I was waiting for something to happen, and it never really did. I thought the opening it kind of gave it a little bit of intrigue, and then it quickly moved away from that time period completely to the modern day, and I think that disappointed me, because I would have rather stayed sort of in that world rather than bring it forwards. And I think it definitely had like a whiff of being made during lockdown. I assume it probably was. I know it was made by like the Addams Family, not them, but it was very much kind of a family affair, and I don't know. I think it sort of, for me, had that kind of vibe of a film that was made as and when in the locations that they could use, and
it felt like a weekend project to me. Yeah, I know that sounds awful, and I mean, I don't know. There are aspects of it that I respect. I mean, the fact that it is this family unit making a film together, like, I mean, that's pretty friggin' cool. Sweet.
Yeah, that's
and I mean, obviously, there, like you said, there were these kind of like rock interlude moments, which I think were part of the story in some way, but also showcased, obviously, these guys were maybe also musicians. And I think when we left, we said, is this almost a vehicle for their music in some way? Like, it kind of felt like that. But yeah, I mean, the opening showed promise. When we were introduced to the human firework, I kind of tapped out for a little bit because I was like, no, I don't think I like this. And unfortunately, incredibly wordy. We were alluding to a lot of stuff. I'm not a fan of people spitting things in films, and we got that a lot, even into each other's mouths sometimes, which was just weird because they are family. I would not do that with my mother. And unfortunately, then when we did get shown things, and there is kind of like this reveal of these characters' inner natures, it just looked like something that Andrew Kramer did 10 years ago on his YouTube channel. It was very After Effects demon-y, and I don't know, maybe I'm being a bit of a snob, but it was a shame. Really. Because I I can remember saying to you guys before we started watching it, I was like, "Oh, I just want some horror," and I think we all felt this was going to be a horror film.
Yeah, you thought
from
you were
like
going to get
the still, and it was horrific, but for other reasons.
Yeah.
Unfortunate, I think. Really unfortunate.
Mm.
Charlie, do you have to leave us there?
I will leave you there. Yes.
That is very fair. I understand that you don't want to listen to my opinions.
I will go back and listen to the podcast.
Don't lie.
Valued opinions on films. But it's been lovely chatting with you guys again.
Yeah, you too, matey.
Absolutely fine. We'll see you on the other side. I've done it. I've done it mid-podcast. It's crazy.
That felt weird. That felt very odd.
It did feel weird.
I didn't like it.
No. I'm going to keep the recording going, by the way. So, just so you're aware, this is just continuing.
This is me then, hanging around awkwardly for a few seconds.
Whilst he clicks on the exit button.
While
Goodbye.
I just hover over the disconnect button.
Wait for him to
and
go.
I'm going to probably just cut you out.
Mid-sentence. Yeah, he did it. He absolutely did it.
Oh, I'm so pleased he's gone.
Oh,
wow,
my God.
Awful.
Talk about
being.
Disappointments. Jesus.
Oh, wow. Biggest disappointment to the podcast. Gosh.
What would be hilarious now is if Rich tapped in. It's like, hi guys.
Hi guys. 5 out of 5. Love him. Love him. I'm going to crack on with my favourite of the festival, Liam.
Oh, I'm also gonna go. So
sick. I'm sick.
Can you imagine? It's just you on your own.
I'll just continue.
I have opinions. But no, hit me with it, dude. Are you starting with your starting with your positives?
The good, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm gonna.
Yeah. Or do you want to?
No, I'm gonna end on a positive.
Mix it up.
I'm gonna end on a positive because So this is the thing, right? With this, my disappointment. This is not to say that I did not like this film. And it's not to say that I didn't think it was good. I was just disappointed in the direction it took. And this, for me, was Lamb. Now, I don't really want to give much away about it because it's definitely one of those films that it's kind of got to be seen to be believed. And I'm gonna have to go ahead and say it. So, spoiler alert: I am going to talk about the plot.
Okay.
So, if you want to,
I think you kind of have to with this film.
We
to
have
be honest.
to. So, if you want to go into this film completely blind, please feel free to skip this section and move on to the film that I thought was the best of the fest. So, warnings out the way. Lamb is a tale about a husband and wife who live on a remote farm, and for whatever reason, they don't have children. In my version of the film, I think that they've either tried and they can't have children, or they've had children who've died young. And what they do is they sort of adopt a lamb, basically. So the lambs give the sheep give birth at the start of the film, and when one of them is born, they immediately take the lamb away from the mother.
I mean, you probably want to mention what's different about.
Well, this is the thing. At the start of the film, you don't really know what's different about the lamb.
No, I think it was quite clever in that.
Until maybe about a third of the way through, where you start to realise that, oh crikey, this lamb is half lamb, half human baby. So it's
so did you not know that was going to happen going into it, or did you?
I thought it was going to be. I thought it might do, but I thought it was going to be more sort of subtle with it. I didn't think it was going to be a literal lamb head on a baby legs.
I mean, it is very that,
it's
isn't
very
it?
in your face. And I wanted then, once I knew that was the case, what I wanted from the film was it to be, is it a lamb head on baby legs, or is it
Yeah.
all in their mind? Are they imagining
Yeah.
this? Are they putting a human kind of tint on this creature because they're so intent on having a baby of their own that they think that it is part human, or that's what I wanted it to be about. But it sort of just transpires that this is actually a half lamb, half human hybrid, and there's another character that comes into it. It's the brother of the husband, and the fact that he sort of very quickly accepts that this is fine. I guess this sort of means that they've tried this before and they've had other lamb human hybrids before, but everyone accepts it as normal, and this annoyed me, and I wanted there to be more tension there of why are we doing this? This is unethical. How has this happened? And then it also, at the end of the film, when you see kind of the full-grown lamb human hybrid, so now like ram human, sort of then completely takes away any idea that it could be all in the characters' heads, because there's a fully grown one roaming around. So obviously, they're real. So I wanted there to be more kind of ambiguity to it, rather than just it. For me, it was too straight, kind of on the nose, which sounds really weird for a film about a lamb baby.
I mean, there was. I don't know. I think obviously in the introduction, and I had quite obviously a conversation with you, Kieran, other people obviously who'd seen it afterwards. It was, I don't know. It's an A24 film, and I think I had an expectation with that alone, knowing that it was going to be this weird slow burn thing where there was just going to probably be something just really odd happening, and then like you'd be rewarded for your patience at the end. And I do agree to some extent. I didn't feel like my patience was rewarded as much as I would have liked. I think it had potential to go in weirder places, but at the same time, you left that film reading it a completely different way than I did, which I found really interesting. So you had like this whole idea, obviously, like you said, where they tried maybe this before, or it had already happened.
Yeah. So I'll give you my reading of the film, and you can give the listeners yours, I guess. So my reading of the film, and I literally, for right or wrong, I can't see that there's any other possible. Well, I will disagree with you. Like is that they've been trying for a while for a baby of their own. For whatever reason, they can't have one. Therefore, they've decided that the best way to do it is for Daddy-O to sort of get jiggy with the sheep, and therefore somehow, some way, lamb baby is therefore born. You kind of get the impression that they visit a grave site with multiple graves. That I think what happens is when they get to a point where they're no longer cute and are actually sort of hideous creatures, that they basically kill them and start the process again, bury them, and the cycle goes on. Apart from one creature which must have escaped and is now roaming the countryside in search of ones of his kind. And that's the only way I can read it, because
I think there's some credence to that reading.
His very existence kind of proves that for me.
I mean, there's definitely some credit, obviously, to your reading of it, because they obviously already had like a cot there. They had clothes for this baby, this child, and all of that. So it does beg the question, like, did this either come from like a failed, like a possible miscarriage, or a child that had died? And I mean, again, the graves that you see, you never obviously see who they are. Well, you do, but do you know what I mean? You don't know if they were human.
No,
and that's like a question that you didn't think you'd have to ask, but you do. So I don't know. It did throw up. I found your interpretation of it probably a lot more interesting than mine, because I was then thinking, oh my God, that's harrowing. That if it is like this cycle that they repeat, so it's like a farming, but in a different way. They're farming for like an emotional kind of object that they can love and be around, to then just, because I mean you see kind of that side of the wife character, because she then gets angry at the sheep that is the actual mother, obviously, of this child, and ends up killing it. So there is, do you know what I mean? It's in the realm of possibility that they would just shoot this thing as an animal, even though it does have these human qualities. So I do get that. The only other thing, and I mean my reading of it, if it's okay to give, would be, I don't know. I think the passage of time in the film is somewhat ambiguous. Obviously, we start the film and we know it's Christmas, but we don't see any kind of other events. So I don't know. You don't know if it's months that have passed, or if it's maybe years that have possibly passed, or weeks, or do you know what I mean? It's quite open. And I know that we have this character of the brother coming in, who at first doesn't accept what's going on. He does kind of say what the audience is thinking, like what the F is going on here. But then I did like the fact that it did just sit normally with them. I found it was quite, I don't know. I found the lamb baby very, very cute. But my interpretation was that it was something else that we kind of see entering the barn at the start. Like, I really was wanting it to be something like, I don't know, obviously devils, rams, you associate, rams, sheep, that sort of thing, you associate with images of the devil. And I was thinking there could have been this whole other thing. That it's like this weird antichrist kind of thing that's been born. But, and I don't know, we got the payoff obviously with the full grown ram man at the end, but I didn't know how to read that. I didn't know if it was, like an escaped one, like you said, or if this was perhaps maybe something that was kept in the family. Like, I don't know, this ram man might have been our lead guy's brother in some way. So it was like his parents that had started this weird tradition of having sex with sheep. I don't know. And I didn't know if that ram man was the creature that was then responsible for the lamb baby, because obviously the film ends with this ram man taking this lamb baby away to raise as his own, I assume.
Yeah, you
because
assume so.
Yeah, so I don't know. I didn't know whether I wasn't as disappointed as you guys were. I really, really enjoyed it, and again, I thought it was stunning to look at. But it was, I do think, in hindsight, I do think it could have lent into the weirdness a little bit more, perhaps, if that makes sense.
I think Kieran referred to it as an episode of EastEnders that just happened to have a lamb baby instead of a real baby.
Yeah. And I do get his point where he said, like, if there wasn't a lamb baby, what would have been special about it? But I think the fact is there was a lamb baby, so that was the point.
Yeah.
I think what did disappoint me though was obviously me and Charlie discussed. We were kind of more thinking like, oh well, there might be some folklore behind this. There might be something a bit more interesting. And was it yourself who Googled it, and the director had said like he didn't know why it had happened, or it was just like a weird dream he'd had or something? Which I don't know. I'm not saying that we make films and have ideas behind everything other than, I don't know, let's shoot this will be creepy as shit.
Yeah.
But I don't know, like that, it felt intellectual, but then it didn't offer much. I think the readings of the film are maybe going to be more interesting than the film itself.
Yeah, and I think actually, thinking about it, this was the film that we came out and chatted the most about.
Oh God, yeah. I mean,
so from that point of view, success.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it was great.
Yeah,
and
conversation starter for sure.
Perfect conversation starter, and like an absolute full blown debate in the in the lobby.
No, absolutely. I mean, it still maddens me that you haven't seen much A24 stuff, because I do think there's a lot there's a lot of great films for you to kind of discover that maybe offer something a bit different.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I think Lamb would probably be on like the lower end of the scale of those films, but it was still, I don't know. I'm looking forward to rewatching it.
Cool.
So I don't know. I'm interested to rewatch it and then go into it with like what your reading of it was, because I think it'll either solidify that or I'll find other clues to other things.
And I think I would rewatch it again to sort of kind of pay more attention at the start to sort of see if anything else is alluded to or if you can pick anything out.
Yeah, because in my mind it's quite muddy still whether or not, like, obviously if it was him, because I don't know the way it all kind of comes together and is edited, whether he was absent and you would kind of see that he was outside and came in, or do you know what I mean? Like just little kind of cues like that to maybe pick up on.
Yeah, now that we
that
know
maybe
the ending,
he was in the barn. Yeah.
Can we piece it together a bit better? Let's do it. Like, when it comes out, we'll watch it again. After all,
we'll lam it up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My favourite film of the festival, though. And it was always going to be right up my street. It always. It was another South Korean film. It was 3 South Korean films at the festival. And they were all fantastic, but this one was my favourite. It's from 2020, directed by Jae Kyun-yoon, and it is Spirit Walker. Now, it's a South Korean thriller, and that already just gets my juices a-flowing. I think, did it win an award for like the best action at a film festival like a few weeks prior to screening?
Wasn't it like best fight and action I think it was like a Hollywood Film Festival or something, wasn't it? It was something like that.
Already I'm there going, yes, I'm ready.
Yes.
And the general gist of the film is that it's about a guy who wakes up in somebody else's body every 12 hours. He has no memory at the start of the film who he is. So the first time he wakes up in the film is after a car crash. He looks in the side of a bus stop at his own reflection and doesn't recognize himself. And you think maybe at the start of the film it's just going to be a story about remembering who he is and piecing that together. But it's really interesting how it's then done, because there's a really cool sequence where he starts to piece together who this person is. He goes to their apartment, and then all of a sudden the apartment starts to shift. It's fantastically shot sequence. It's brilliant. And this whole thing, the walls kind of bleed away, the floor changes, and suddenly he's in a cafe with a woman that he does not know, and he's still himself in his head, but he looks totally different. And there's shots of him walking along where his reflection isn't him, but he's still himself. The actors sort of interchange when he's having conversations. It's gloriously done. And then throughout the film, you start to piece together that all these people are linked, and that he himself is also linked to all of them. And it becomes a story about a mob, drugs, the organization trying to bring them down, whose side is he on, and then at the end it goes full John Wick. I thought it was absolutely fantastic. I thought the action was on point. I thought that the kind of the central mystery was brilliant. I thought it was inventive. I thought it was shot fantastically with especially in the sequences that I talked about, where he would be talking to somebody and then the camera would cut back and he would look like he does to other characters, and then it would cut back and it would look like how he thinks he looks himself. I thought it was terrific. I would watch it again in a heartbeat.
You know, just how we kind of said, I think we said before about Midnight, how we'd seen deaf protagonists before and there's expectations of stuff. Like, we've seen body swap films before. And this still, and I don't know if it is that kind of Korean perspective or that kind of influence that comes through, but just the ideas and the way that it was done was just so special. It was so good. Like, they must have literally got actors in for some of the shots just for the reflections.
Yeah.
And then, like you said, in the next shot, it was seamlessly edited so that the person would appear to be how they would to other people outside of like this character's consciousness. It was great. And I mean, kudos obviously to the actors as well for being able to like embody each other's kind of energies, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because I don't know, there was no point in that film where I thought I wasn't following this one character through all of these different bodies.
Yeah.
And again, just an absolutely winning concept behind it all, just making it just all the more interesting when we get to those like fight scenes and all of that. Like the stakes were there, weren't they?
Oh,
you cared
100%.
about. Yeah, it was definitely a standout. I think that was a close second for me, I think, behind obviously other films we've mentioned as being like favorites.
I just think at the moment, if you would pick one place in the world where the kind of the most exciting, inventive films are coming out of, you'd be hard pressed to find somewhere better than South Korea.
Yeah, I mean, we're pleasantly surprised. Like every year we go, I usually think that the films that stand out to us are usually the like Asian cinema. Obviously, we've had One Cut of the Dead previously has been a favorite, and then I mean, this year, I think the best films were the Korean films. In all honesty, I think they were great.
Yeah, and then shout out to the Taiwanese and Japanese in there as well.
Yeah,
I think it's been
for sure.
But yeah, I think at the moment, if you are after something that is inventive, action-packed, Spirit Walker is one to seek out. I think it was stunning.
Yeah, completely agree.
Continuing with the vibe of South Korea, we're going to talk about the final film from South Korea from the festival, and this one is going to form this month's Foreign Bodies segment.
Thanks, Jonno. So, my choice for the Foreign Bodies segment this month is going to be a Korean film from the festival, South Korean film, entitled Night Shift, and it's been released this year. And it goes by a few other names, and I think we were a little bit confused as to why it was called The Night Shift. But some of the other names include Grotesque Mansion or The Ghost Mansion, which I think would have been far more apt, to be honest. I'm probably going to butcher this. It's directed by Jo Ba-run, and essentially the film follows this comic artist. Particularly he does web comics, webtoons artist, and he's interested in kind of the scary, the occult, all those sorts of things. And we follow in this story, which is essentially a wraparound story in an anthology, this character who's doing research by asking the caretaker of the building, which is called Gwanglim Mansion, about stories of things that have maybe happened to the residents there, as this building's supposedly haunted. And as the film unfolds, in a really interesting way, I might add, we get these little vignettes of the lives of some of these residents and what's happened to them. Now, I think what was pleasantly surprising to me, I mean, there's 5 stories total, including the wraparound story, was what was impressive was that each story offers a different facet or avenue of horror. So you have supernatural, you have psychological, there's like the occult, and all that sort of stuff in there. Just downright creepy. I mean, a standout for me was a segment that featured like a human doll sort of set scenario. I mean, I think the concept of that is just weird anyway. No offense to anyone out there who may have a doll of their own, but it's not for me. And yeah, essentially we kind of come to this conclusion, and I think, you know, sometimes with anthology films, the wraparound story can sometimes be very, very scarce in kind of having an impact. It's just there to serve as a way to get from one little kind of story to another little story to another, but it all felt absolutely like organic. And to me, this is how you do an anthology film. This was directly, I'd probably say, behind Phantom of the Paradise in terms of like my highlight of the festival. I wanted horror going to Mayhem, and this delivered it in spades. One of my friends, Gavin, was sat behind us, and I mean, he literally afterwards looked like he'd been through some kind of trauma from watching this film, so that was funny to see. But yeah, I don't know what the release plan is going to be over here, or if it is available yet. I have a feeling it probably isn't if we've seen it through a festival just now, but I already can't wait to rewatch this. If you're a fan of horror, you will definitely find something in this film that you will enjoy.
Yeah, I'm going to have to agree with that totally. I thought the 5 different kind of segments were linked very, very nicely. They weren't just linked by someone's walked past. They were, they were linked. There was actual thought behind it. They were all similar enough, but then also different enough to feel like totally kind of different films. Yeah, they weren't just here's another one. Every single one had its own like kind of flavor to it, which I really liked, and we all kind of came out with a different favorite. Which
I think was really interesting, wasn't it? Like we all like different aspects of it, but also what was maybe different about this than other anthologies we've either previously discussed or seen was that there was obviously just the one director, so it did feel super cohesive, and I think that served it really well.
That's
in my opinion.
Even though the stories themselves were different and went down different routes, the actual overarching kind of style and aesthetic of each story matched.
Yeah.
And then also that meant that the wraparound segment itself just bled in there completely seamlessly. And when that segment then took over, you sort of
became its own.
You didn't realise. Oh, we're like, this is absolutely fine. Unlike in some where, we're going to cut back to this now. We're going to cut back to this now. And it becomes a little bit jarring. Whereas this blended the stories together really nicely. And then before you knew it, this is the final segment. We're at the end now. And I thought it was creepy. I thought it was kind of icky in places. I thought I thought it had everything. And going into Mayhem looking for a horror film, this was the one that made me the most uncomfortable in the cinema.
Yeah, it definitely delivered. And I mean, just touching upon what you said there, I can remember us coming out and us saying like how icky it made us feel. Like if a film could have a texture, it would be this film. Like it was just, it really does get under your skin in like all the right ways, and genuinely did have like some great jumps in there and just some really interesting imagery that I don't think you'd get in like a typical Hollywood horror film. Which I just really appreciated a hell of a lot.
Yeah, for sure. So, unfortunately, that brings to an end our discussion of Mayhem 2021. I know for sure that as soon as kind of it got round to 10:45 on the Sunday, I was already thinking, oh man, I could like quite happily just jump forwards in time now to 2022 and just start that all over again, because it's like one of my favorite weekends of the year. And long may it continue. So thanks again to everyone at the Broadway, to Stephen, to Chris, to Melly for all of their hard work programming the event, getting the guests, and making it what it is, which is a fantastic festival, a great place to go and chat about films and to just embrace cinema.
Absolutely. I couldn't have said it better myself, Jonno.
I do try. I do try.
You do try.
I just wanted to not end the podcast without asking you, Liam, just to talk for a minute or so about our new film, which is coming out this Halloween.
This Halloween,
called, Take a Look, and it's been some good fun to film, hasn't it, Liam?
Absolutely. It's been nice to actually get back on set and be making something again, because I think we'd been out of the game for a hot minute due to COVID and life and everything. So it was nice to produce something again, and it wouldn't be Halloween without a Super Freak Media short. So Take a Look is I would say a supernatural fairy tale of sorts. I think it's a little bit different than kind of what we've done before, but does have the potential to be one of the scariest films I think we've put out there. So I'm excited for people to see it. It's definitely been a lot of hard work, but I'm just I'm thrilled to be getting something else out there for everyone. So happy days and happy Halloween.
Yeah, happy Halloween to everyone that is listening. So all that is left to say after this Mayhem themed episode is thank you to Liam Banks.
You are most welcome.
Thank you to Charlie Brentnell, who has gone. So I will.
You are most welcome, Jonno.
Charlie, you sound a little bit, if anything, kind of more.
He's probably
manly
just sat on a ball.
Yeah,
he's just rolled over onto a ball.
Bless him.
Thank you, Jonno.
Thank you. So, as usual, keep it creepy, and see you all on the other side.
Ooh, I'm on my own, but
it's just you.
It's just me.
Yeah.
Nailed it, mate.
That's
absolutely nailed it.
Not three bad, that.
Oh,
well, Richard never turned up.
Exhausted, mate. No, what an absolute stain.
That's
he didn't like Phantom of the Paradise, and he didn't come on the podcast.
No.
What an
yeah, that's the clip I'm using at the end. Choice.
Oh no, please don't. I love Richard.
No, I'm using it. I'll just bleep out like the W word. You've been listening to a podcast on the Super Freak Media Podcast Network. To show your support, be sure to subscribe on whatever platform you're listening on. And you can find us on social media in the links in the description of this episode. Thank you for listening.